Hey, everybody, welcome to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to talk about a topic today that I think you're going to find interesting, especially if you have plans to come to China. So, the title of this video is Things That Shock Foreigners When They Move to China. And just a little bit about me, so you know that I've got a pretty good sense of perspective when it comes to life in China and things that you'll probably see. I've been living here over 10 years. I've traveled to over 100 cities in China, and I know this country really, really well. So, all of the things here are things that I'm speaking about from my own personal experiences and things that I've also talked to other friends and expats and travelers who have spent a good amount of time here in China as well. And their list would probably look different than mine, but I'm very confident that there would be at least a few overlapping things on their list and mine as well. So some of these are positive, some are negative, some are kind of gross, some are funny, but they are things that will probably surprise you, the foreigner in China. Okay, so number one on the list, and this has been something that I've never gotten used to, and that is people spitting and blowing snot rockets in public. I noticed this from my very first day in China. I was walking around outside and I heard a bunch of people. Older people do it a little bit more, but lots of younger people do it as well. So that's the spitting part, the hawking up a loogie, hawking up an oyster, spitting it out. But then we've got the snot rockets as well. Anybody who has spent any significant amount of time here in China can pull this memory, pull this image out of the archives of their brain because they've seen it plenty of times before. A guy walking down the street, he covers one nostril with his hand, blows out a huge and powerful snot rocket, and then he starts smacking his hand against his leg to get off whatever snot was left on his hand. Yeah, transferring the snot from the hands to the pants. They're really big here on getting that kind of gunk out of their body, getting snot out, phlegm, mucus. They want it out of their body, and I get that. I mean, I would say it's probably better to get that stuff out of your body than it is to swallow it or, you want to get it out. But it's the very public and indiscreet way in which they do so. And people here, like when I see locals, if I see somebody blowing a snot rocket or spitting, I never see locals look at them twice. And that is simply because they are just so used to it. It's just a part of normal life here. But for me, even after being here over 10 years, it still grosses me out. I never get used to it, and I will never get used to it. Hey guys, 你对汉语感兴趣吗? Do you know what I just said there? I just asked you if you were interested in Chinese in Chinese. Perhaps you were like one of so many who always said that they wanted to learn a foreign language. How many times have you heard or said that, but there was never any real follow-through? Well, there's no better time than today to get started. If you want to learn a foreign language, then I would highly suggest considering learning Chinese. There are Chinese speakers all over the globe, so your chances to put it to use will be readily available. I have partnered with the team at Excel Mandarin, and I encourage you to go check them out. They have a wide variety of courses, small class sizes, 24/7 support, and a comprehensive website full of resources that will help you in your Mandarin journey. Also, their teachers are native Chinese speakers, so you can be sure that you are learning authentic Chinese and will be able to speak with confidence. Contact them now and set up your free trial lesson. Completely free, no strings attached. You can contact them by phone or email, all links below. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot the most important part. Be sure to tell them that Mr. Chopsticks sent you. Okay, now back to the video. Number 2 on this list, the number of e-vehicles on the road. There's a lot of EVs out there. The streets of China are getting quieter because back in the day, a lot of these people are like first generation drivers. So the streets were pretty chaotic. The driving was just atrocious. People would just constantly honk on their horns. They just lay on that horn and use it excessively. I mean, sometimes they'd honk the horn and just leave it honking continuously for like a minute. I mean, if you try that stuff back in the West, things could get very ugly. But that's the way it was back then. But these days, the streets and the roads of China are getting quieter. People are honking less. But another reason that the streets are getting quieter is because EVs are really, really quiet when they're on the road. They don't really make any noise. And you just see them everywhere. I'm seeing a lot of EV charging stations pop up, and they've got all types of little brands. Of course, they've got their bigger brands in China making EVs. They've got NIO, they've got Hongqi, they've got BYD, and several others. But then they've got these little brands that you've never heard of. The regulations for vehicles to apparently be able to be street legal in China seems to be somewhat laxed, because I've seen some really crummy looking, just dinky little, like tiny EV types of things, which there's no way they could be safe, especially if you were in some kind of collision. But I see a lot of these kind of things on the road as well, and they're on the road legally. But then, of course, they've got their high end, like really nice EVs as well. They've got all types, whether it's scooters, little mini cart kind of things, high end luxury cars, you name it. Well, EVs are taking over the roads in China. That's a real thing. The third thing on the list, and this is people cutting in line. This is something that has always been a pet peeve of mine here in China, whether I'm at a restaurant, or actually the most common place that I run into this is at train stations. I line up to get my ticket. It's a very common sight to see someone trying to slip right in front of you in line. And then when you go to the platform, you're standing there, you're waiting for the train to come. And then when it does, people just start cutting in from all angles. And it is truly frustrating. Anytime I mention this online, I always get comments saying, oh, that's just older people. No, that's the way China was 10 years ago. It's not like that anymore. No, it's absolutely still like that. And if you come here, even if you spend a week or so, you would probably experience people trying to cut you in line. And man, oh man, does that piss me off. The fourth thing on the list, and that is the fact that many hotels in China will not accept foreign tourists. They will not accept foreigners. They will not accept people with a non-Chinese passport. Of course, there are plenty of hotels that will, but there are also many, many, many hotels that won't. Now, early last year, China made a big press release stating that hotels in China are no longer allowed to reject foreign guests. And they did that because this was starting to get a lot of negative publicity, because quite a few foreigners in China had experienced this, and it was becoming a problem. They were upset by it. They were frustrated. They were offended, and the Chinese authorities were getting a lot of complaints. They were starting to get some bad press. So they released a huge statement saying very clearly that hotels in China could no longer reject foreigners. Sounds great, right? Yes, I absolutely appreciated that. I was so happy. But the problem is, it seems like most hotels in China didn't get the memo, because the number of hotels that would accept foreigners before that and after that big press release didn't really change, at least not from what I can see. If I just randomly walk up to a hotel that I see on the street in China, there is a very high likelihood that they will not accept foreigners. And this is something that if you're a traveler, you're really not used to. And it's really hard to articulate the feeling you get when you go into a hotel and then they look at you in the eyes and say, oh, I'm sorry, we can't accept foreigners. It's really hard to articulate how that makes you feel. You feel offended, you feel pissed, but there's nothing you can really do about it. I mean, there is a government hotline here that you could call and file a complaint. And I've made a video about that. I had this experience actually not that long ago. I went to a hotel, and this is after Beijing had put out that big statement stating that hotels can no longer reject foreigners. And I had a well-known hotel chain reject me. Well, I challenged them on it, and I said, no, sorry, you can't do that. Beijing clearly said that all hotels must accept foreign guests now, but they weren't budging. They were saying, oh, no, we can't do that. So finally, I had to call the government hotline. There was nothing that they could do at the time, but they instructed me to call the police. Now, keep in mind, I'm doing all of this in Mandarin, because chances are when you call that hotline, you're not going to get any English speakers. And when you call the police, chances are they're going to be speaking Chinese, right? I mean, this is China. Of course, they're going to speak Chinese. I managed to get it worked out and get into the hotel, but only with the help of the police. The whole ordeal took about an hour. It was very stressful. And it's just not feasible. People that were just coming to China to travel would never have been able to do that. First of all, they wouldn't have known about that hotline. Second of all, they wouldn't have been able to communicate even if they could call, because they wouldn't speak Chinese. So it's just not feasible. If a hotel rejects you in China, you're going to end up feeling bad, but ultimately accepting their decision and moving on to try to find a different one. And this is quite a shock to foreigners when they come to China and experience this for the first time. Number 5 on the list, and this one's kind of funny, kind of gross, but it's people's openness about going number 2. Dropping the kids off at the pool, laying a chocolate egg, taking a dump. And I know, like, if you're hanging out with bros, guys are usually pretty open about this. Hey, man, I got to go take a shit. kind of locker room talk, just guys talking with their buddies. It's very normal. But when there are ladies in the room, like there's no way I would say anything like that. I would just say, "Oh, I'll be back in a couple minutes. I got to go to the bathroom." I'm not going to just stand up in a room full of women and say, "Hey, ladies, I'll be back. I got to go take a shit. See you in a few." Just not going to happen. No way. How awkward would that be? Well, in China, it's not only men, but also women that are very open and comfortable with announcing that they have to go to the bathroom to take a shit. I used to work in an office filled with young, like attractive women. They would have been in the early to mid 20s, all Chinese women. And more times than not, when they had to go to the bathroom, you would see them get some paper. Sometimes they would have a toilet paper roll in their desk. They would pull off some paper, rip it off, or they'd get a few tissues. You could tell they were preparing to go to the bathroom, but then they would also announce it and tell their friends very openly. It wasn't taboo at all. They would just get their toilet paper, say, "Okay, I'll be back. I got to go take a shit." Of course, they'd say it in Chinese, but that truly did shock me. Now, if you're coming to China, chances are you probably don't really speak any Chinese. So if they do say it, you wouldn't understand anyway. But once you do understand Chinese and you hear them say it, it really throws you off. I'm not knocking it or saying anything bad about it. I mean, for me personally, I would prefer that they didn't announce it. I think it's better if they'd be a little bit more discreet. When an attractive young lady in her 20s grabs her toilet paper and says, "Okay, I'll be back in a few minutes. I got to go take a shit." It's just weird. It's awkward. Sometimes it gives a mental image that you don't necessarily want. You know what I'm talking about? But that's just the way it is. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Number 6 on the list is the low cost of certain things in China. Now, I do need to qualify this one because a lot of the workers here earn a much lower salary. So the cost of many things here are set for that salary. So for a lot of locals, things that might seem cheap to me, they wouldn't seem cheap to locals. But to you all out there, the whole red note army that keep going on and on, "Oh, everything's so cheap." Well, that's because prices are set based on the local salaries. And just because you think it's cheap doesn't mean they think it's cheap. But anyway, be that as it may, when you're here and either you're earning a higher salary or you're used to prices back where you're from, things will appear to you to be very inexpensive, at least some things. Public transportation, certain foods, you will be surprised. And it's all a matter of perspective, right? It depends on where you're from, what kind of prices you're used to, how much money you make. I mean, you've got to keep in mind, guys, a lot of Chinese workers earn anywhere between like $500 to $1,000 a month. They've got all their bills to pay. It costs Chinese families a fortune to raise kids. But for me, a guy coming from the US, I'm used to American prices. So when I come over here, things to me, sometimes I am honestly blown away by how cheap it seems. But you always have to keep in mind that's only your perspective. Number 7 on the list, and that is the forwardness of the Chinese. A long time ago, I always used to have this kind of preconceived notion that all people from Asian countries would be kind of shy, kind of reserved. Well, when I ended up coming to China, I quickly learned that that's not typically the case. A lot of the people here are extremely outgoing, extremely extroverted, and a lot of times they don't have a filter. They won't abide by the rules of what you consider to be political correctness. Of course, they have their own type of political correctness, which is specific to China, but that's very different from yours. And sometimes they'll say things that will shock you. Like if you happen to be overweight and you come to China and you work with Chinese people, you make some Chinese friends, you'll probably have somebody pat your belly and tell you that you're fat. If you have a big nose, or even if you don't really have a big nose, you'll probably have people over here say, "Ah, your nose is so big, your nose is so high." They're referring to like a high bridge on your nose. If you happen to be black, they might state the obvious, "Wow, look, you're black." And this forwardness can really throw people off. It takes a while to get used to. And they're not trying to be offensive. They're not trying to insult you. That's just the way they are. A lot of times they just speak without thinking. And that's just the way it is over here. So if you're really self-conscious and thin-skinned, it's going to take you some getting used to in China. Number 8 on the list is the population here. Yeah, you'll feel it when you're in the city. It's kind of crowded, but the time you'll really feel it is like during a holiday when there's the mass migration of people going back to their hometowns. Sometimes you can't get a train ticket. Hotels are all booked up. You can't get a flight. Or if you do get a train ticket, then you go to the train station and you just see these multitudes of people, more people than you've ever seen in your entire life. It is quite shocking. And it can kind of feel overwhelming when you're just in like a sea of people and you're shoulder to shoulder. It's a different and unique experience. At least for me, it was. For me personally, I try to avoid situations like that, like the plague. I like my personal space. I don't like huge crowds, but it is interesting to at least experience that. Number 9 on the list is their obsession with hot water. And I'm mainly referring to drinking hot water. There are jokes that go around amongst foreigners who have lived here for a long time. Like maybe one day you wake up with a headache. Your buddy who knows China pretty well might say, "Oh, just drink some hot water. You'll be fine. Hot water cures everything." And that's because in China, they swear by hot water like it's a cure all, it's a miracle drug. It's like the nectar of the gods. Drink some hot water and you will achieve perfect health. Anything that's wrong with you, just drink hot water and you'll be fine. Hey, people can drink whatever temperature water they want. It doesn't matter to me. The only time it gets annoying to me is when I don't want to drink hot water. Maybe I want room temperature water. Maybe I want chilled water. And I've got somebody telling me, "Oh, no, don't drink that. That's bad for your health. It's bad for your stomach. You need to drink hot water." I'm like, "Hey, chill. I'm going to be fine." But if you come to China and you interact with the locals, you will be offered some hot water. Most of the people here, I don't even think they realize why they actually have the habit of drinking hot water. And that's because the water here is not drinkable. You can't drink the tap water in China. You absolutely can't. So they always have to boil it. They have water kettles. They boil the water. After it boils, they pour it. And this has been going on for ages. So they have developed the habit of drinking hot water, and they associate any water that's not hot with being bad for your health. And yes, hot water plays a very important part in traditional Chinese medicine, or TCM. But the reason that most people drink it here, the reason that most people swear by it, is because, like I just told you, they've had to boil it just to be able to drink it for ages, and this has developed a habit. It's pretty easy to see how that could happen. "Oh, you're going to drink some water? Oh, don't drink that. That's not freshly boiled. It's bad for your health. You'll get sick." And yes, you will see people here drinking bottled water and room temperature water. But the hot water thing is very much alive in China, and it ain't going nowhere. Number 10 on the list, last but not least, and that is going to be random people wanting to take photos with you. You might be just walking down the street in China, and a mother with her child might walk up to you and say, "Hello, where are you from? Oh, can we take a picture together?" Or maybe, "Can you take a picture with my kid?" And that's friendly, it's sweet, it's cute. I always oblige them and say, "Yeah, sure, no problem." But it's something that many travelers and many people are just not used to. And when you come to China, chances are you will experience that, and you might experience it a lot. So it's just something to know. That way, when it happens, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I remember that guy on YouTube, Mr. Chopsticks. He told me about that." So that's my list of 10 things that shock foreigners when they move to China or travel to China. Have you been here before? Have you spent a good deal of time in China? Let me know about some of the things that shocked you. Always curious to hear from you all in the comments section. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I've got a lot more videos on the way. I've got a lot of travel videos coming out. Got a lot of big trips coming up for this year. A lot of exciting things in the pipeline here at Chopsticks and Trains. So thanks for tuning in. We will catch you all in the next video. 下次再见. I want to give an extra special thanks to all of my YouTube members and Patreon supporters for their help in keeping this channel financially sustainable. A huge thank you to all supporters from the $1 tier on up through the higher tiers. I want to give an extra special acknowledgement to my PCO tier members. And lastly, a huge shout out to my top tier supporters. Lee, Martin S., David is Da Wei, and 有爱心的外国人. Oh, and just so you know, you guys rock.
What do you look for beyond the sea, grasshopper?